So on this topic, and I want to extend the teens, I want to extend achievement or empowerment of teens in AI. And what other, this is the best time to bring in someone who has launched Teens in AI, an organization called Teens in AI, Elena Sinel, who's already been part of a panel earlier. And she's the founder of, Elena.
Hi again, Uday. Thank you so much for having me once again. I am so inspired by the young panel just now. So well done to all four of you. You've done so amazingly well. I know how nerve-wracking it is. I've moderated so many panels with youngsters, but you've done so well, and just incredible what you're doing already at your young age. I can't wait to see what you will be doing when you're in your 20s and 30s. It's just incredible, mind-blowing. Well done.
At the age of 11, when someone's talking about ethics and diversity in AI, that's absolutely brilliant. We were fascinated by the work you do at Teens in AI, and this kind of resonates. These young kids, what they're saying resonates with what you are doing.
Absolutely, yeah.
To introduce you, Elena, Anila doesn't need introduction in the AI world, but I'd still introduce her to the people coming from SDG backgrounds and policy backgrounds across the Commonwealth. Elena is the founder of Teens in AI, and she launched this at the UN AI for Global Summit, UN AI for Global Good Summit. Teens in AI offers young people aged 12 to 18 early exposure to AI for social good. And I think the first program of Teens in AI is looking at the first South Asian program is an AI for Good hackathon in Brunei, targeting 500 teens and 50 teachers. I would let Elena go more into it. So Elena, can you begin by starting to explain us a bit of what Teens in AI does?
Absolutely. So I launched Teens in AI in 2018, as Uday mentioned, at the UN AI for Good Global Summit. But the very first hackathon in AI actually happened in 2017. And this happened because one of the teenagers in our network wanted to commit suicide 6 times. And he approached me because he really desperately needed to be saved. And he asked me, can you occupy my mind? And at that time, obviously, I was just, teaching lots of different technologies, nothing to do with AI. But I desperately wanted to help this young person. He was only 15 at that time. And the only way to save him, I felt, was to really engage him into the work I was doing. But his mind was the kind that I didn't know what exactly I could ask him to build, because he could pretty much build anything. One of those genius minds, but at that time felt incredibly vulnerable. And I asked him, what is it that you're passionate about? And he said, AI. That's all I live and breathe AI. And I asked him, tell me more about it. Can you teach me? What can I, what can we do together in the space of AI? And then it just turned out that I asked him, why don't we run the very first hackathon here in London, in the UK, and let's try and inspire other teenagers like you into AI as well, your age group and everything. And this happened in June 2017. During London Tech Week. We thought it would be an experiment, and everyone was just blown away. The teenagers at the age of 12, 13 could integrate IBM Watson and play with TensorFlow and whatnot. And so it just made me realize that teenagers, as you have seen just now, nothing is problematic for them. Give them any challenge and they will tackle it and they will solve it. And since then, we ran many more bootcamps and hackathons and accelerator programs. This past August, we ran our 5th AI accelerator, and we've had 300 applications from across the globe. 77% of them were women, 73% were from Africa or from African backgrounds across Europe and the US as well. So we were really overwhelmed by the number of applicants, and this AI accelerator took place online and was very, very easily accessible. 3 weeks, the first week started with us introducing them to the fundamentals of AI, but also software engineering. Ethics is part of every single program we run, and I insist on on ethics really being part of every single class curriculum. So whenever you teach computer science, you should be teaching ethics. And in fact, today I opened a hackathon in Brunei at 3 a.m. here in London. And at 10 a.m. I was teaching the very first ethics class. It was Introduction to the Ethics, and outlined some of the really controversial case studies we've recently witnessed in the world of AI. Probably you've all heard about the A-level fiasco, A-level algorithm fiasco. So, but what we've been doing since 2017 was really experimenting and showing young people that AI is just a technology, but it enables something. And obviously that something has got to be for the benefit of the societies. So everything we do is in the space of AI for good, and it's very much aligned with United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So I have a very quick, I don't know, slide deck that I would like to share if possible. If you permit me to share my screen. So I have already kind of outlined a lot of the stuff that I mentioned, so I will skip through some of the slides. And so when we launched, I suppose what we wanted to show is that really the world is changing as we speak. Particularly now in times of pandemic, or as we're recovering from the pandemic. These are the questions we should be asking ourselves as AI is shaping the world. Who will really be shaping AI? And to me, the answer is that next generation. They are your 20 to 18-year-olds who might be still in school, but as you have seen just now from this presentation, they are so capable. And it's so important to invest into the younger generation from a really early age. And so the mission, the reason why we launched Teens in AI as a movement was to really improve diversity and inclusion in AI and democratize this space. Because right now, a lot of the teenagers who do have access are, you know, grammar school, private school. It's very inequitable, that state. And I really wanted to take this to Africa. I wanted to take this to Southeast Asia. I wanted to take it to Middle East, and I wanted to open this up to every young person across the world, and most importantly, connect them through this passion for AI for good. And we're doing this online. We've run already 3 programs online, and it has been successful so far. Since launching this in 2018, we have worked with a number of really big corporates, such as MasterCard and Microsoft. And with Microsoft in particular, we have developed a program called Girls in AI, which was trending under Alice Envisions the Future, now known as DigiGirls AI. And Microsoft is now scaling this across 150 countries. So hopefully, you know, if this all goes ahead and the world doesn't throw another pandemic at us, we will have that roadshow that we've planned. We have already showcased these opportunities and ran hackathons in San Francisco, New York, Seattle, but also in Southeast Europe, in Romania, Warsaw. And just before the pandemic, I was meant to go to another 6 different countries, almost one after another. So, unfortunately, since the pandemic, we have kind of paused our operations because of the Microsoft regulations and rules. But hopefully, when it all picks up, you will see a lot of girls, literally hundreds, thousands of girls across the world, learning about artificial intelligence for impact. And so the world we live in right now has been, you know, dubbed as, you know, the worst crisis since World War II by United Nations Secretary General. It is really said that the new coronavirus disease is attacking not just societies, but really claiming lives and people's livelihoods. And we are expecting that economic recession, and not only UK here, we can actually feel it, but across the globe. And it will be the countries that are hard hit with, you know, the high percentage of youth who will really feel the impacts of coronavirus, because the unemployment is definitely going to be impacted. And like in Brunei right now, I think the percentage is almost 14% of youth unemployment, which is quite a lot for a tiny country like Brunei with less than 500,000 people living in it. And so before COVID, obviously we've had some progress with SDGs, but despite success in some areas, we are definitely not going to be on track to achieve some of them. And definitely the main focus of many of the countries right now is how can we recover and how can we recover fast enough for us not to see the detriments long term. And so for me, it's imperative, it's absolutely necessary to look into what we can do to empower that young generation. And I'm talking about secondary schools, but also those in universities, because they really are going to be feeling that burden of the pandemic for many years. And what can we do right now? And so with UNICEF, for instance, they have already said many times that youth across the globe will be impacted by the growth of the AI technologies and applications. And if we don't engage them and encourage them to really have that awareness and understanding of how these technologies work, you probably are putting your country at risk. So if the audience here today are, the government policymakers, it is very urgent that you take steps to empower your citizens, for them not, and that doesn't mean to say that everyone, needs to learn how to code, or everyone needs to know how to do TensorFlow or play with IBM Watson or whatnot, but it's about awareness, how their jobs will be affected, but it's also about how, the kind of data they might be giving away, or the kind of solutions that are being built already in the country, and how do we make sure that this is done responsibly, not at risk, like the case study that we've just seen in England happen, which left 300,000 young people's dreams and hopes completely crushed, like literally. And it was just really sad how this government decided to go about producing the algorithm, and there has been absolutely no transparency around this, and they have completely lost the trust of the public, the trust of the parents, the trust of the children. And that is a shame. So mistakes like this really cost, and they cost, it will really be to the detriment of the governments themselves. And so the case study that I wanted to highlight, apologies for that. my son decided to quickly pay attention. Just one moment. And so the country that is really something that I wanted to briefly outline, and I think one of the reasons one moment. I am bribing my son as I speak. Apologies for that. And that literally just happened today when we launched a hackathon in Brunei, but the project has actually been in preparation for more than a year. We were meant to go to Brunei during Easter time and launch this very first pilot. But unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we had to pivot and say, look, guys, we can actually do it very successfully online. And this is a year-long initiative in Brunei, which is the first Southeast Asian country and Commonwealth country to host this program. And this will have over 500 teenagers really learn to understand what AI is and how they can use it to actually address problems and challenges in Brunei. So this got kicked off at 3 a.m. London time. It's very, very exciting. There are 55 teenagers currently in Discord buzzing. Right now they're asleep, obviously, but this morning they were buzzing. We run them through human-centered design. So it's design thinking, but also we were teaching them ethics. And every day they have at least 2 or 3 inspiring speakers from the AI industry to talk to them about what's really happening in the fintech sector, in insurance, in medicine, in education, and what the possibilities are. And it's just mind-blowing. Usually these hackathons happen, over a couple of days, but online they take place for about 8 to 9 days. And we will have that demo hosted live in Brunei, with me tuning in from London, and some other judges tuning in from London as well. And we will have 10 teams presenting the most incredible stuff that they have been working on for 5 days. It's intense. They're going to learn a lot. And most importantly, they are really shown that they have the potential to change the world. So I am really looking forward to it, and I'm really grateful I've had the opportunity to tell you about this, because the future is really young people. If we invest into them now, I promise you, which is what I promised to Brunei, give me 2 years and you will see a lot of innovation happen in Brunei because the unemployment is on the rise at the moment, and really it's time to invest into innovation and young minds, because then you will have young teenagers like the ones we've just heard from, who will be very comfortable with this technology, and they are the ones who will shape the world of tomorrow. So I can probably end here because I know you've got other stuff that you've planned, but we have worked with a number of companies already across the globe, and you can probably see some of these testimonials even on our website from some of our partners like Quantum Black, ARM, Microsoft, and MasterCard. So if you do have any questions, feel free to ask them now, or I'm happy if you contact me by email and I can tell you more about the progresses and successes we have had in the past few years. So thank you so much, Uday. I'll stop sharing, and if anyone has any questions, happy to respond to them now. Just bear with me, because also I was up since 3 a.m. I'm not entirely sure whether I'm not completely spaced out, but I'm probably excited, and so it doesn't really look like I'll be up for God knows how many hours now, but happy to answer any questions.
Firstly, that's a great presentation and some excellent information, and absolutely, filled with the work that you're doing, particularly for teams, because there aren't many platforms looking at teams that do in the space of AI, and then you're bringing ethics and social good. What I understand from what you just mentioned, you didn't start off as AI, but you started off doing social good, and you brought AI into it. It's opposite to many others who start off with doing AI and then think of social good. But I think yours is you started off with social good and you brought AI element into it. So it kind of makes your priority a social good first and then bringing in AI.
Thank you. I mean, my background is actually in politics and war studies. So my dream job in the past would be to go to a country which is suffering from conflict or post-conflict and really help them rehabilitate. So I kind of came into this area of AI from a social science background, but I've always wanted to create a better place, better world. Since I was a teenager myself, I always tell my stories to teenagers, but I am not a technologist. And one of the most important things I always tell teenagers, you don't have to be a technologist in order to find or to fit in the world of AI. There are so many different careers you could take. Most importantly, I think if we were to do what the Finnish government has done, and their promise was, their ambition was, we want to teach 1% of our population what AI can do. And they have created this amazing course called Elements of AI, which is super simple. You don't even have to be a technologist to understand, to complete that course. And I highly encourage you to literally Google Elements of AI. The Finnish government have done, and I think they have already hit their ambitious target of 1%, and really already many more thousands, if not maybe hundreds of thousands of people have taken this course. It's about awareness and understanding what it can do and the kind of problems it can solve. And it's not really as intelligent as we assume it is, but it can certainly do some stuff like pattern recognition, like predicting stuff. And it has definitely already made a massive impact on in medicine. And so we are going to see a lot more happening and a lot more enterprise adoption as well. And so if you are, a country that is struggling right now, or oil prices being affected, and we know oil is not going to be there forever. We know that by 2040 there probably will be very little oil left. So now is the time when you can invest into the younger generation, and you have to do it in a way where we focus on that right demographic. Boys and girls really learning to understand what is happening with the world and how the world is being shaped, so that they can also be part of it.
And I also like the aspect that you're bringing into the ethics aspect into technical education, which but I come from a technology background, though my interest has been in politics since young age. But when I was growing up in India, studying politics was not an option, particularly from the region I come from. So studying politics it's still not an option. People don't understand how can you study politics is a question they ask. Still that people do ask me that question. So it was all technology or medicine from where I came from. So there I say, so I interact with many technologists as well who don't understand the ethics side absolutely nowhere at all. There's only coding, there's only how systems behave. They understand the business side of it, but ethics side is completely missing from a big sector. So I think what you are trying to encourage here is bring that element to the elementary education.
Yeah.
So the aspect of ethics comes at a subconscious level, and you always keep thinking about it. That's a brilliant initiative, I have to say.
It's very, very important. I cannot stress this enough. If you are a policymaker out there listening to this, it's very important that whenever you teach computer science, you teach ethics at the same time. It is not even an option. It should not be an option. Whenever we teach computer science, whether it's primary school, secondary school, university, we should teach ethics as well. And if we do that, perhaps there will be less, glaring examples, the horrible stuff that is happening right now that we're all really annoyed about. But the best way to deal with these, annoyances governments come up with, like the UK government, the A-level algorithm fiasco, is really to educate, and to educate from a very early age. And we're still far away from this. Here in the UK even, I do not know a school that would really teach ethics of AI alongside a computer science subject. And this is something we desperately want to happen, because we really do want an educated citizen who will be aware of what's happening with his or her data when they go out, when Google sends you a notification, hey, how was that restaurant? Did you like it? And most people don't even know what kind of data is being collected on them and what really happens with their data. We just click on this accept, okay, I'm happy for you to collect all this data, but we don't really know what happens with this data. And I think we really need people who really understand what goes behind the scenes. But also at this level, if we do encourage that investment into young education, and we teach them about ethics, we teach them about AI and data science, but at the same time, we teach them about how it all fits in, because coding by itself is nothing. It really is meaningless. It's about how you apply that AI, how you apply that technology to solve a real problem. That is the crux of the matter. And so when we teach, anything during our hackathons, it's a very holistic program. We always start with human-centered design. And what that means is we will not solve a problem for the elderly people without elderly people being in that room. And we're not going to be solving issues for disabled people without these disabled people being part of that product cycle development. It's very important that when we focus on product development, that we involve. And you're right, Uday, a lot of the technologies, they ignore, the business aspects, they ignore the ethical ethics matters, because all they want to do is, I just want to code, just give me something to do and I will just code. That's not what we want. And that's why when somebody says, oh, do you want everyone to learn how to code? Not at all. We need everyone, all different skills. We don't want everyone to be coders out there. We want all skills and everyone's opinions and everyone's expertise. And we do need subject matters. What was really amazing during the accelerator is we partnered with NHS Trust, Tavistock and Portman. You may know they're specialized in mental health. And what was incredible is we had at least 4 or 5 teams out of 11 teams tackling mental health. And what was beautiful about this whole initiative is that we had this amazing partnership with the NHS Trust, the experts who came and informed young people about the state of mental health amongst young people themselves. But at the same time, it was co-designing, co-creating those projects that made such a massive difference in the outcome. So when NHS came, they said, well, we are working with young people, but we've never really co-designed anything with young people, for young people. That was such an eye-opener for NHS themselves, because they have never done it before. So this is something that we want to see more of, pollination of ideas, cross collaboration, so that we can see the industry really work together. We cannot solve a problem for education without educators being part of that product cycle. So when UK government released that algorithm, what it showed that they do not trust the teachers. that is probably what really came out of this. Instead of working with the teachers, developing this algorithm with the teachers, they did something completely the opposite and losing the trust of the teachers really and everyone else. So it's very important. There are so many different aspects, and we teach all of this, including product management, we work in agile, so lean startup is our Bible. And we do really focus on the ethics and making sure that whatever they create is really with humans in mind first and foremost, but also really, takes into account some of the ethical considerations. And when they produce their pitches, their demo, one of the slides that often misses in Techstars, you look at the Techstars demo or Y Combinator or any of the amazing, pitch days, none of them ever talks about ethics. They don't, because it's just not even something that comes to mind or is covered. And what myself and my colleagues are trying to almost encourage and insist on is that should be part of your pitch, and that should be something that you will have thought about throughout the cycle of development. And we teach that to the kids already. So when they pitch their demo day, one of the slides is ethical considerations. Have you thought about what might go wrong? I mean, think about cases like 23andMe, when the company got acquired by one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies, and all of the data that you have been they have been collecting on you just out. We don't know what will happen to this data and what kind of stuff we will be sold down, so many months or years later. So lots of things to consider when we develop AI systems, but the responsibility really lies with us, the humans, because we're the ones that really need to be responsible when it comes to those systems and developing those AIs. So Uday, I know you have got another panel happening, so I am more than happy to switch off now, unless you have another burning question.
I wasn't hinting or anything. It's just that the time is started. So just to close there, one aspect you mentioned is many technologists ignore. But where I think it extends beyond that. Technologists, most of them, they don't realize that this is an aspect at all, because I come from a technology background and I understand tech and policy. But when I was studying technology as well, there was one social sciences class, and people never used to understand why that was there. Almost, there was less than 10% attendance.
Are we not starting this panel?
Yeah. So, sorry. Yeah. Okay. That's the. So thank you, Elena, and thank you so much, and we will. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you for having me again. And yes, and I'm in touch by email. So if anyone wants more information, do get in touch. And hi, Shelley and Mandy again.
Yeah.